Watkins Glen International Raceway is a modern, well-maintained big league road racing facility. But in a more historical sense, it may be the most famous of all American road courses, where numerous professional racing series have made stops for season upon season. But this legendary venue has a most remarkable past, one that is widely unknown to even the most avid motorsports enthusiast. And its compelling story begins in the post-war years of the late 1940s, when Cameron Argetsinger, a local sportsman and returning U.S. serviceman, convinced the town fathers of Watkins Glen, a small, tightly knit community on the southern edge of Seneca Lake in upstate New York, that a sports car race run right on the streets and surrounding roads of the town would be a great tourist magnet. With a 6-mile course and little thought given to driver or spectator safety, it was a very risky display.
Watkins Glen was like European road racing. It was just a bunch of roads. I mean, they didn't do anything other to make it a racetrack other than to stick a couple of hay bales in front of some trees and some telephone poles, which were meaningless. I didn't help a whole lot. But it was 6 and some odd miles of really very dangerous highway. I mean, there were no fences, there was no crowd control, there was no protection, and they had some really damn fast cars. I mean, the Cunninghams of the day, the Allards, Cadillac Allards and stuff like that were 150-mile-an-hour cars. I mean, they were very serious race cars.
In the days before well-engineered helmets, roll bars, fire suits, and safety harnesses, it was a race that recklessly courted disaster. And it wasn't long before disaster struck.
There are some kind of poignant places around. There's a monument up near the end of the racetrack, up at the far end as you go down into the state park section, and to Sam Collier, who was one of the pioneers of early American road racing. As a World War II fighter pilot, was running a Ferrari, one of the first ones in the United States that belonged to Briggs Cunningham, fighting for the lead, and lost control of the car, went out, tumbled out into a field and was killed. And there's a marker there that you can see. And ironically, during every race weekend, somebody always puts some flowers there, even to this day. I'm not sure who does it, but you'll always see a little bundle of flowers in front of that Sam Collier monument, which is now almost 50 years old. Probably the hairiest and scariest part of it is that great big sweeping downhill right-hander that goes on for I think almost 1.5 miles, drops down almost 1,000 feet into the village, ended at the bottom by this very tight 90-degree left-hand corner called Milliken's Corner, named after Bill Milliken, who dumped his Bugatti there. I can't remember, in 48 or 49. So then it makes another hard right down Main Street. It goes right down the center of town and ends up at a hard right-hander 90-degree corner that heads back up Old Corning Hill. In those days, people just stood on the curbs. I mean, and they were packed into what was kind of an escape road at the end of Main Street by 30 deep. The race ended with only one person being killed. It was a little boy sitting on the curb, if you can believe it. There were a couple other people injured when a car slewed under hard braking for Old Corning Hill, got into the crowd and hit the boy with a knockoff wheel. But in those days, they would just come on out, stand on the roadside and watch these guys go by at 150 miles an hour. It's crazy.
So crazy that following the 1952 fatality, a course was laid out on the fringes of the town. Then, later, a closed course was built, and the United States Grand Prix called Watkins Glen home until the track ultimately went bankrupt in the 1970s.
It's been a checkered career for a major racing facility, much like Riverside on the West Coast, that has been the scene of every possible kind of automobile that you can see has raced around Watkins Glen, much like Riverside. So there are interesting parallels between the two racetracks.
While Riverside has long been demolished, Watkins Glen remains alive and well, with several amateur and professional events packing race fans into its grandstands and paddock area each year. But whatever success it enjoys, and whatever global notoriety it commands, it can all be traced to a short but drama-filled period in the early years of American motorsports, when brave men muscled brutish machines down these roads and through these narrow streets in their dangerous quest for immortality.